The world of the Greeks was filled with gods who thundered, who burned, who shook the earth. But somewhere beyond their noise and power, there was one who whispered instead of roared. This was Hypnos, the god of sleep, who never fought for temples or demanded sacrifice. His worship was unspoken, woven gently into the silence of nights. Children knew him before they knew their own names, when dreams wrapped them safe. The aged knew him too, when he softened their days into calm evenings. Hypnos was not loud, yet all the world lay beneath his hand. He did not dwell upon Olympus, bright with golden halls. Nor did he live among mortals, walking in plain disguise. His home was in a valley deep and hidden, where the river Lethe flowed. The river sang softly, washing memories into forgetfulness. Here no bird sang, no wind intruded, no sound dared rise above a murmur. The air itself carried drowsiness, like a woven blanket over the senses. Those who entered soon felt their eyes heavy, their burdens lighter. The poet said his dwelling was carved not from stone but from stillness. Walls were made of shadow, ceilings of mist, floors of hushed earth. 1,000 poppies bloomed outside, their petals dropping endlessly. The flowers swayed not with breeze, but with the breath of dreams. Within this house, time itself was softened, slowed, and set aside. No clock could measure it, no sun could pierce it, no fire could wake it. The house of Hypnos was eternity's resting chamber. They told that Hypnos was born of Nyx, the night, ancient and eternal. From her womb came many powers, both feared and revered. But Hypnos, gentle child, bore none of her terror. While others thundered with darkness, he soothed like velvet shadows. He was the soft hand upon the weary brow. He was the cool night that followed a burning day. He was the pause between heartbeats, the sigh after tears. Yet he was not alone, for he had a twin. Thanatos, the god of death. Thanatos brought stillness too, but one from which none returned. Hypnos, instead, carried a kinder silence, one that released with dawn. The two were alike in form, yet different in destiny. People often confused them, mistaking rest for ending. But Hypnos carried no fear, only calm surrender. And even death, it was said, envied his gentleness. The ancients imagined him as a winged youth with dark hair. His wings sprouted softly from his temples, fluttering like moths. With them he drifted swiftly across the lands, unseen yet felt. Where he passed, eyes closed, shoulders fell, breaths deepened. No shield could guard against him, no sword could cut through his spell. For no mortal could refuse him, and no god could long resist. Even Zeus himself once bent beneath his touch. It was told that when Hera, queen of the heavens, plotted her schemes, she sought Hypnos. She asked him to lull mighty Zeus into gentle slumber. At first Hypnos trembled, for the thunderer's wrath was fierce. Yet when Hera's pleas grew heavy, he spread his wings. And even Zeus, master of storms, could not hold his wakefulness. The god of sleep pressed his hand over the ruler's brow. And the heavens themselves grew still while Zeus dreamed. From that tale, mortals learned that Hypnos had no enemies. For even the greatest power found peace in his presence. No army could march forever without him, no king could rule without rest. He was the secret balance upon which the world turned. Unseen, uncelebrated, yet always near. He was in the soldier's breath, in the child's sigh, in the farmer's pause. Every life was bound gently by his unseen hand. Though his myths were few, his presence was constant. The Greeks did not need great stories to know him. They met him every dusk, when shadows softened their burdens. They felt him every dawn, when dreams slipped away like mist. He was no distant deity but a companion of every soul. Even the restless and the sorrowful found his mercy. For Hypnos withheld himself from no one. His sons, they said, were the dream-bringers, the Oniroi. Each carried visions wrapped in silence, walking from his halls at night. One bore true dreams, clear and faithful. Another bore false dreams, shadows and trickery. And yet another wove strange visions, neither true nor false. But all were Hypnos gifts, spreading across the sleeping world. Thus dreams themselves were seen as his children. The dreams that came from Hypnos' house were countless, flowing like rivers in the night. They slipped through windows, drifted over fields, entered palaces and huts alike. Kings dreamed of power, poets dreamed of verses, sailors dreamed of calm seas. All dreams, whether sweet or bitter, were but echoes of his realm. Yet none could hold them once morning rose. They melted like frost under the touch of dawn. Hypnos alone remained, waiting quietly for night's return. The poets described his valley as a place untouched by sun. No rooster's cry ever dared disturb its endless silence. No dog barked, no shepherd's call echoed there. It was a land where all voices softened to whispers. The earth itself seemed tired, resting under the weight of shadows. The stars bent low, keeping their light gentle. Even the gods approached that valley with hushed steps. The ancients said his cave was guarded by drowsy vapors. They curled in the air like smoke, wrapping every visitor in heaviness. Some who entered found themselves asleep before reaching the threshold. Others wandered deeper, only to forget why they came. For memory itself grew faint in that sacred stillness. The deeper one went, the slower thought became. Until at last, silence filled every corner of the mind. Hypnos was not feared as other gods were. No sacrifices were demanded in his name. No blood was spilled upon his altars. Instead, offerings to him were softer, garlands of poppies, cups of warm milk. Some laid down feathers, as if to invite his wings. Others whispered prayers before sleeping, calling gently upon him. He answered not with words, but with rest. Legends told that even heroes, proud and strong, were helpless before him. When battles raged, he would drift quietly among the soldiers. Eyes closed against their will, shields dropped from tired hands. Generals called it weakness, but wise men knew better. It was not weakness, but the hand of Hypnos pressing pause. For no war could last without his permission. Even rage must sleep, even fury must fade. In the great epics, he appeared only in fragments. A whisper here, a fleeting presence there. But those fragments were enough to show his strength. If he could silence Zeus, what mortal could resist him? If he could soothe Hera's schemes, what mortal sorrow was beyond him? He was greater than fame suggested, greater than silence admitted. For without him, no tale could continue, no dawn could arrive. The Greeks sometimes spoke of his wings not as feathers, but as night itself. Dark and soft, they spread over the weary world. When he flew, shadows followed, folding over fields and cities. Children looked at twilight skies and thought they saw his passing. The slow darkening of day was his approach, step by step. Each star he lit was a lantern of dreams. And soon the world fell into his gentle net. He was not a lonely god, though his realm seemed still. His sons, the dream bringers, filled his house with quiet steps. They carried their visions through the world like silent messengers. Some carried joy, others carried fear, others strangeness beyond reason. But all were born of Hypnos' breath. And when they returned, he gathered them close, like children at twilight. The cycle of dreaming began again each night. The Romans later knew him as Somnus, and they too honored his rest. They placed him in their stories, giving him the same wings, the same quiet. Their poets spoke of him resting in a cave of eternal shadows. Around him, poppies grew, thick and red. The air of the cave was heavy with their scent. And every breath there was an invitation to sleep. So even across cultures, his presence endured. Hypnos was a reminder that even gods bowed to gentleness. Power was not always in thunder, not always in flame. Sometimes it lay in silence, in stillness, in surrender. The Greeks, wise in their myths, knew this well. They shaped him as the god who never harmed, never demanded. He only offered what all must eventually accept. The quiet rest of Hypnos, endless and kind. In the hush of evening, when fires dimmed and voices softened, Hypnos would draw near. No mortal ever saw him step through their door. Yet all felt the weight of his presence in the folding of their eyes. The weary welcomed him as one welcomes a trusted friend. The sorrowful longed for him, knowing he carried brief escape. And the joyful received him too, drifting into bright dreams. For Hypnos turned no one away. His power was so subtle that mortals forgot it was divine. They thought sleep a natural thing, not the hand of a god. But the wise knew otherwise, and whispered of his hidden strength. They said no mortal act was possible without him. The farmer could not till, the king could not rule, the mother could not care. All would crumble if sleep was withheld. Thus Hypnos was the unseen pillar of the world. In his valley, poppies grew thick as stars across the sky. Their petals glowed faintly in the half-dark, red as fading embers. Each flower carried his breath, each seed his promise. Travelers plucked them as offerings, tucking them under pillows. It was said a single petal could soften the sharpest grief. The air around them was heavier than wine, sweeter than honey. And in their silence, Hypnos smiled. The river Lethe, flowing near his home, was his companion. Its waters erased memory, washing the mind into stillness. Those who drank of it forgot pain, forgot joy, forgot names. Yet Hypnos did not need its waters to bring rest. Where Lethe was forgetfulness, he was peace. Where Lethe emptied, he replenished with dreams. Together they wove the fabric of sleep. Mortals prayed to him in quiet words, softer than prayers to other gods. Their voices did not rise in temples, but in whispers before bed. A child asked him to banish nightmares. A sailor asked him for calm seas and dreams. A widow asked him for a vision of her lost beloved. And Hypnos, though never heard, always answered. For every dream carried his touch. Though he was gentle, he was not without might. Even the proudest god found him irresistible. When Zeus was lulled, the heavens trembled in silence. When Hera schemed, she sought his aid, not fearing refusal. When mortals raged in war, he pressed sleep upon them. No army, no storm, no crown could deny him. His gentleness was stronger than force. He was a god of pauses, of intervals between striving. Life rushed, labored, and burned itself to ash. But Hypnos restored what was lost in the frenzy. He cooled the fevered mind, steadied the trembling hand. He laid his veil over the world each night. And without him, nothing could endure long. His gift was survival through rest. The ancients pictured him not as old, but eternally youthful. His face was calm, his eyes half-closed, his smile faint. His wings shimmered like dusky twilight, soft and slow. He carried no spear, no thunderbolt, no crown. Only poppies in his hand, and shadows at his feet. This was his regalia, humble yet unshakable. For sleep itself was his power. He belonged neither fully to earth nor Olympus. His place was between, in the space of silence. Where mortals dreamed, he was present. Where gods conspired, he lingered at the edge. Not feared, not celebrated, yet always needed. He was the god all knew but few named. And in that, he was eternal. To the Greeks, Hypnos was not a tale of glory but of necessity. He was the unseen rhythm of life, beating beneath every myth. Without him, heroes would stumble, kings would falter, lovers would part. Without him, no dawn could bring renewal, no harvest could grow. He was woven into every story, though rarely mentioned. Like silence between words, like breath between songs. Hypnos was the calm that made all else possible. The valley of Hypnos was said to be eternal dusk. Not the harsh darkness of fear, nor the blinding brightness of day, but a gentle twilight where the soul found balance. The air was thick with drifting silence, woven of poppy scent and the hum of hidden streams. Travelers who entered forgot their burdens, as if dreams reached out before sleep had claimed them. Some would sit upon the moss and rest without intending, eyes fluttering closed like petals at nightfall. And none resented the loss of time, for in that valley, time was not an enemy but a companion, softened by the hand of Hypnos. Legends told that the doors of his dwelling did not open with hinges, nor were they guarded by spears. They simply yielded to quiet hearts, parting like mist to those who sought rest. Within lay chambers veiled in shadows, where silence was so deep it pressed against the skin. Poppies fell in endless drift from unseen ceilings, carpeting the floor in scarlet softness. The gods themselves were said to tread lightly there, lest the hush swallow their voices. For in that home, all sound bent low to the rule of Hypnos, sovereign of slumber. Hypnos was often mistaken for weakness, for surrender, for escape. Yet the ancients understood that surrender was its own kind of strength. When the storm raged too long, when the mind burned too bright, only Hypnos could restore balance. He gave to mortals what no sword or coin could win, the peace of forgetting toil for a time. Without him, even the mighty faltered, their fire consuming them before its season. He was the secret ally of every life, protecting not through force but through stillness. His power was hidden, yet it shaped all things. Though Thanatos, his twin, carried fear upon his wings, Hypnos bore gentleness. One brought silence without return, the other silence that healed. The two were inseparable in form, yet divided in purpose, two rivers born of the same night. Some men confused them, trembling when Hypnos touched their eyes. But when morning came, they knew the difference, for death does not release, and sleep always does. In this way, mortals learned not to dread Hypnos, but to welcome him with gratitude. For his twin may be inevitable, but his gift was merciful. The poet said that dreams were his children, countless and fleeting, wandering the world like spirits. Some brought prophecy, veiling the future in delicate hints. Some brought memory, summoning faces long lost to time. Some brought nonsense, the jumbled play of wandering thoughts. And yet all carried the fragrance of his hand. They were not always kind, not always clear, but they were always part of his gift. Mortals awoke puzzled, frightened, or comforted, yet in all cases they had touched his realm. In dreams, Hypnos spoke most clearly. His presence in the great epics was always quiet, a shadow between louder deeds. Heroes fought, gods clashed, cities burned, but between each act, sleep came. And that sleep was his, though unspoken. Even mighty Achilles, even wandering Odysseus, even wily kings and burning warriors, all bent before him at day's end. For no tale could continue without Hypnos pausing the breath of its heroes. He was the hidden hand of every story, unseen but essential. Without him, myths would break apart from exhaustion, never reaching their close. The Romans gave him another name, Somnus, yet he remained the same spirit. They, too, pictured his cave lined with poppies, heavy with shadows. They, too, imagined his wings brushing softly against the world. And they, too, understood his necessity, for empire itself could not rule without rest. In every land he entered, mortals carried the same truth: sleep was divine. So the god of sleep, though seldom praised in temples, was eternal in human hearts. Wherever men closed their eyes, he lingered. Even the gods, restless in schemes and power, could not stand apart from him. Hera, cunning and queenly, bent to his aid. Zeus himself, master of thunder, was subdued by his hand. Ares, raging in bloodlust, fell to stillness when Hypnos willed it. None were immune, for even immortality required pause. Hypnos was not a rival, nor a conqueror. He was inevitability itself, the gentle hand upon all brows, divine or mortal. Against him, resistance was not defiance, it was folly. Mortals honored him not with festivals but with surrender. Each night, without knowing, they lay down their arms, their tasks, their crowns. They closed their eyes, trusting in his mercy. In that act, they worshipped him more truly than with golden offerings. For his temple was not carved of stone but of silence, not crowned with statues but with dreams. And every bed was his altar, every sleeper his devotee. Such was his kingdom, vaster than Olympus, softer than the sea. And so, in the quiet of the night, the Greeks whispered his name like a lullaby. Hypnos, the god who harmed none, who soothed all, who turned chaos into pause. He was not a tale of battle, nor of fire, nor of fury. He was the hush that followed, the sigh that ended the song. And though his myths were few, his truth was vast. For every heart, every age, every breath required him. Hypnos, eternal and patient, the god of sleep and peaceful dreams. In the long halls of his dwelling, silence was not emptiness but fullness. Every shadow carried weight, every breath carried meaning. The walls seemed to hum softly, as if echoing the heartbeats of those who slept under his care. It was said that even gods who visited left with their voices hushed, their eyes heavy, their thoughts slowed. Hypnos himself walked among the chambers like a breeze in twilight, touching gently yet leaving great stillness behind. His footsteps were not heard, but the dreams that followed were his signature. Mortals often wondered if Hypnos himself dreamed, and poets gave them answers in whispers. Some said he dreamed the dreams of all mankind, weaving them into his own slumber. Others believed he never dreamed, for he was the source of dreaming itself, and the fountain does not drink its own waters. Yet there was beauty in not knowing, for mystery suited him better than truth. He was, after all, the god of shadows, half seen and half felt, the companion of silence. In mystery, his presence grew even more soothing. His valley was not a place mortals could truly visit, though stories told otherwise. It was not found upon maps, nor reached by feet, but entered each night when eyes closed. The Greeks said that every sleeper stepped unknowingly into his lands, walked unknowingly upon his mossy paths. And when they awoke, they returned across the threshold, empty-handed yet restored. In this way, the home of Hypnos was not far but near, closer than breath, nearer than thought. To dream was to wander his halls. The children of Hypnos, the dream-bringers, played across the world with tireless energy. They carried visions of joy, sorrow, strangeness, and hope. One wore the shape of truth, another the mask of deception, another the cloak of fantasy. Yet all were pieces of him, scattered like sparks from the same fire. Mortals met them nightly, not always welcoming, yet never escaping. They were the messengers of his gift, teaching through shadows, comforting through illusions. The sons of Hypnos gave color to silence, and made the night vast with wonder. Some myths hinted that Hypnos had a golden key hidden in his wings. This key, they said, could unlock the gates between worlds. With it, mortals passed into dreams and returned again at dawn. Without it, the threshold would remain closed, and waking would never come. Of course, such tales were woven with imagination, for the truth was softer. Hypnos needed no keys. His presence alone was enough to open the door of rest. Yet the image of the key endured, shining quietly in stories. Even the greatest philosophers of Greece, those who sought reason in the stars and order in the earth, spoke softly of Hypnos. They did not deny his myth, but used it as symbol. To them, Hypnos was proof that even wisdom must bow to rest, for no mind could think without pause. They wrote of him as a necessity, a balance that preserved harmony in the world. Where wakefulness sharpened, sleep softened, where struggle consumed, sleep restored. Thus even the wise saw him not as fable, but as eternal truth. As centuries passed, his name shifted, but his essence endured. In Rome, he was Somnus. In later lands, he became sleep itself, faceless but familiar. Yet whether clothed in Greek shadows or Latin silence, he remained the same. Always youthful, always patient, always near. Mortals forgot the myths, but they never forgot the act of surrender each night. And so, even in ages without temples, his worship continued in every sigh, in every dream, in every dawn that followed rest. The poets of old often ended their verses with invocations to Hypnos. For after stories of war and wandering, there was always need of quiet. After thunder and flame, there was always nightfall. And in that nightfall, Hypnos reigned. He was the final word of the day, the closing of the scroll, the dimming of the fire. Without him, no tale truly ended. And so his name was spoken last, softly, like a lullaby that settled upon weary ears. In the quietest hours, when the world was darkest, he was closest. Mortals believed he leaned over their beds, wings folded around them like curtains. His breath cooled fevered brows, his hand lifted burdens from tired hearts. He was not absent even from sorrow, for in grief he gave release. He was not absent from joy, for in joy he gave renewal. His presence was not chosen, it was certain. Wherever men slept, there was Hypnos, guardian of peace. So ends the tale of the god who asked for nothing yet gave to all. Hypnos, son of night, twin of death, father of dreams. He was not the roar of storm, nor the blaze of fire, nor the might of kings. He was the hush, the sigh, the pause between all things. And though his myths were few, they were vast in meaning. For sleep itself is the oldest story, and Hypnos its eternal keeper. Close your eyes, and you will know him, as the ancients did, gentle, patient, endless. The tale of Hypnos drifts now to its end, as all nights must drift toward dawn. His wings grow still, his valley remains hushed, and the poppies close their petals. Yet his presence lingers, gentle as breath upon the skin. Sleep does not vanish, but folds quietly into memory, leaving behind only calm. So too do we leave his myth, carrying with us the stillness he offers. The god of sleep remains with us, though unseen. Hypnos reminds us that rest is not weakness, but a divine necessity. It is the balance to labor, the cure to sorrow, the companion to joy. Without him, no story could be told, no life could endure. Each night, when you surrender your eyes to darkness, you are not alone, you are in the care of an ancient god. His wings are your blanket, his silence your song. And though you forget him by morning, he never forgets you. In the still chambers of his house, dreams begin to stir. They are his children, the wanderers of night, drifting outward into the mortal world. Some shine like lanterns, guiding with truth. Others flicker strangely, bending into mystery. They are the onhurried, spirits of nighttime dreams, each carrying a fragment of his gift. Soon, we will follow them into their own myths. For Hypnos was not only the giver of rest but also the father of visions. His sons carried messages from gods, memories from life, and strange reflections from the hidden mind. They were as countless as stars, and as varied as the waves of the sea. In their stories, sleep is no longer silence but a realm alive with shapes and voices. Dreams themselves become myths, woven from his breath. As you close your eyes tonight, think not of battles or storms, but of valleys veiled in twilight. Think of poppies drifting, rivers whispering, shadows folding like wings. Let Hypnos guide you gently across the threshold, into the land of dreams. Do not resist him, for resistance is futile and unnecessary. Yield, as mortals have yielded since the dawn of time. His gift is peace, and it is yours. The myths of Greece are vast, filled with thunder and flame. But here, in these quieter corners, we find something softer, something needed. Hypnos is proof that not all power comes in violence or command. Some power arrives with silence, with patience, with kindness. And it is that power which sustains us, hidden but eternal. Sleep is not small, it is divine. Now, as the story fades, your eyes may grow heavy. Let them close, as if guided by Hypnos himself. Let his valley welcome you, his shadows cover you, his poppies soothe you. The night is his kingdom, and you are safe within it. Drift as the ancients once drifted, trusting the god of dreams and rest. You are his guest, and he is always kind. And when we next return, we will follow the children of Hypnos, the spirits of dreams themselves. The onhurried, who walk between truth and illusion, who whisper visions into sleeping minds. They will lead us deeper into the mystery of night, beyond silence into the dream world.